This is Staithes, just up on the northeast coast. Lovely little harbour. It's drying. The problem is the harbour master, I don't think he seems very keen on having yachts in. There's a few fishing boats, the traditional old cobbles in there, and a couple of other small fishing boats on the moorings there. But it is a lovely place. It actually translates the name Staithes from the Old English for landing place. And apparently it did used to have quite a big fishing fleet of the cobbles, which is based on an old Viking boat design. Now these days it's very much a tourist village, though. Around about a half of the houses, I think, less than half the houses are owned by locals. But that's just the way things go these days. The coast is quite famous. There's a lot of rock strata there that geologists are very interested in. It exposes a lot of Jurassic era rocks there. But very interesting. Now, this is Bowlby Cliff, which is the highest point on the east coast at around about 200 metres high. And the Cleveland Way runs along the top. You'll just see the path quite close to the edge of the cliff. Now, it's the site of a potash mine, and the tunnels extend up to about 3 miles out to sea and about a mile underground. The total length of these tunnels combined is around about 620 miles, so an enormous mine. They're currently mining potash, which is a fertilizer. They're looking like they're going to switch to polyhalite because the potash is running out. But it's all the products of the evaporation of an ancient seabed. I think the Permian, around about 250 million years ago, there was a sea that dried up and evaporated and left these minerals behind. But very useful these days as fertilizer. Now, this is a random shot of a freighter that went past us. It's actually about a mile and a half away from where we were. I think it was a gas carrier, but quite an interesting shot. It's not a viewpoint you see that often, so I thought I'd include it anyway. This is a statue of Lord Collingwood, Vice Admiral Cuthbert Collingwood. Now, he took over from Nelson after Nelson died at the Battle of Trafalgar. Very conscientious and able officer in some ways, more perhaps able than Nelson himself. He was the son of a coal merchant. And he did very well for himself. He never got to go home for about the last 6 years of his life. I think he spent at sea. Very dedicated officer. And it was a hard act to follow after Nelson, because Nelson, everybody under him loved him. And they all accepted Nelson's superiority without any jealousy whatsoever. And he was a very inspiring character. Now, in some ways, Collingwood, as I say, he might have been a better all-round planning officer. He was loved on his own ship, but he couldn't really reach out to the rest of the fleet in perhaps the same way that Nelson did. But a very capable officer and very ably in charge of the Mediterranean fleet in his time. That's the view out to the Tynemouth. That's the entrance into Newcastle. That's the head of the town. Now, that's actually South Shields. Newcastle itself is, I think, about another 9 miles further up the river, but it's all bikeable. So if you get into Royal Quays Marina, which is where we're berthed up here, lovely marina, there's quite a nice bike track all the way up into Newcastle. And I have to say, I did find Newcastle to be a very cycle-friendly city. Really interesting place. Quite a lot going on there. That's Royal Quays. There's the locks into Royal Quays Marina. And you can see all the cars there, just gone out of screen up on the top right, that I guess they're going to be exporting from probably Nissan and Sunderland, I'd imagine. That's our berth in Royal Keys, as I say. Really nice place, really nice pub, and in the marina as well. Now, just coming into screen, just there, that's HMS Northumberland, Type 23 frigate. She was actually made on the Tyne by a Swan Hunter, just paying a courtesy visit